hear you. Did you get
Cool.
new glasses since like 1 week ago?
Dude, I've been, C.com, you get glasses for like $15. I bought like maybe 100 glasses over this pandemic. And every day I wake up and I change them and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, if only people knew.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
All right, cool. Perfect. So everyone's jumping in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Brian Platt, the city manager and the business administrator of our beautiful Jersey City here right now. I wanted to name some of his achievements, which is, he was recently ranked #2 on the ELGL list of top 100 local government leaders and influencers. Not too long ago, Bloomberg Cities named him Government Innovator of the Week. And Chickpea also named him OG Babe of Jersey City, which I thought was probably one of your best achievements. All right. So Brian, why don't you introduce it, kind of explain to people what your position is in Jersey City and what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am the, what's officially my title is business administrator for the city, but it's really like city manager, chief operating officer for a company. So I handle pretty much all of the day-to-day operations of the city comes through me. I work hand in hand with the mayor, all department directors, everyone in the city, you name it, to make sure we're moving things forward and providing good services to everybody.
No, that's great. That's great. So let's jump right into all this craziness. Obviously, this is a time that is like unprecedented in the world. I mean, it's been like 100 years since something like this has happened. So what is the current administration like? What are some of the issues and problems that the current administration is facing right now? I know there have been some budget issues, potential layoffs, financial stuff. So what can you inform us on as far as the city goes?
Sure. The main thing that we're dealing with right now is the public health crisis, obviously. Our main objective is to stop the spread of this virus. This pandemic has been tragic for us and for cities and for people across the country and across the world. That's our main objective. However, we are feeling really good about where we are at this point. The average cases per day dropping significantly. The number of patients we have in our hospitals, coronavirus positive patients in our hospitals, dropping significantly from the peak that we had in April. And we're starting to have discussions about how to sort of bring life back to normal for people in the city at this point.
Okay, cool. And are there issues with the budget because of this? I mean, I know that we stopped doing tickets and stuff like that. How is that looking right now?
We shut down in the very beginning, in the middle of March, we shut down almost every single city operation for at least a brief period of time. Yeah. Of course, the emergency response systems were still in place, so the police were still coming if you called 911, and the fire department still came. We're still picking up the garbage, but we weren't doing parking enforcement. People weren't coming to pay their parking tickets. No one was filing for a permit to start construction. None of that stuff. None of the other revenue sources were coming in. Yeah. And the property tax base, which is the main source of revenue for the city, not all of it, but the main source, was just a lot of question marks there to know if we were going to get payments for that at all. So I'm sure you've seen the news that we put out some information that said that this could be a $70 million shortfall for the city, and we're not alone. This is affecting every city, every business out there. But we're doing a lot. We're pulling a lot of levers to cut costs and to find ways to save where we can at this point.
Is there any official plan to rebound from this as far as the budget crisis? And
we're very hopeful that we're going to get through this. We've trimmed the budget or attempting to trim the budget in a lot of small ways. And we chip away at it bit by bit, and it adds up to a significant amount of money that we're going to hopefully save. And that, combined with FEMA reimbursements and other hopeful dollars that will help us coming through to make sure that we're going to be okay as a city.
Okay, so no, that's really good. Okay, so as we all know, Jersey City has had a thriving scene in all parts of Jersey City. I mean, Bergen Lafayette, the Heights, Greenville, downtown, everything, right? So everything was really, really thriving just before this all happened. What do you think is going to change? How is everything going to look? Restaurants, bars, shopping downtown after the quarantine ends?
It's hard to say right now, to be honest. I wish we had more specific information of what we think the landscape is going to be after all this. But we don't really know. It's sort of like trying to rebuild your house while it's still on fire. Like right now, we're really focused on, stopping the spread of the virus, making sure that we're still going to provide city services. And for example, as I said before, the police are still going to come when you call 911. And while we are thinking about small businesses and the local economy here, there are a lot of other factors at play right now, and we're not totally sure where it's all going to go. So just to give you an example, we've had a lot of discussions around funding and grants and loans for our local small businesses, and done a lot of outreach to understand what the need is and sort of the things that we need to think about there. But the problem is, a month ago, the need was different than it's going to be in a month.
Of course.
And it depends on how long this all goes, and it depends on the extent of the economic damage before we're really going to know what is needed. So do businesses need $10,000 each, and is that enough? Do they need 40,000? Are they going to have other needs that are not financial? Are we going to have to set up different systems and structures to run restaurants and run businesses? Those are all things we got to think about too. We're not totally sure where it's going to go, but along those lines, and sort of, I'm always positive with things about Jersey City. We're really hopeful about rebounding and recovering from this. We've none of us have ever dealt with something like this before, but Jersey City is incredibly resilient. We have a lot of very passionate people who are working really hard to make sure that we're going to do whatever it takes to get things back to where they were and better than they were before. And we've already made some big steps. One of the things that we've talked about publicly already is this coronavirus relief fund, where it's just private donations with people those who have the means are doing what they can to spread the wealth, so to speak. And we're hoping that we're going to raise millions from this and be able to directly give that back to those that are most in need in Jersey City. And that's just one of the several sources that we're looking at.
Where can we find that fund? Because obviously there are, unfortunately, some, there could be fake ones out there and everything. So where can we find the Jersey City Fund for our city?
The main page for everything coronavirus related, the official page on grant resources, on emergency information, is jcnj.org/coronavirus. And that's the place where you can do anything from sign up for emergency text alerts to learn more about all the programs and policies we're putting in place, donate to the coronavirus relief fund, learn about all the other stuff that's going on as well, and just stay up to date.
So recently we started opening up parks and everything. So I'm assuming there might potentially be, is there a date in mind that you guys are thinking of opening up?
We've definitely started to have those conversations around when is the right date, when is the right time. You're right. We've started to open the parks up slowly. We know there's a balance. And one of the metrics we look at when we think about how we can and how we should start to bring things back to the way they were, like our parks, are those hospitalization numbers and the number of daily cases that we're getting here in Jersey City. And as those numbers continue to go down, we're probably going to start to make more pushes to open more stuff. So we started with the parks, knowing that there's a way to control the environment in a limited number of parks. And as we've talked about publicly, we're requiring everyone in the parks to wear a mask. We have staff from Recreation and Public Works there the entire time, making sure people are safe and practicing social distancing. We have police presence there as well. It's a very safe and controlled environment, and it's easy for us to slowly ease into that. Also, just think about, except for today, where the weather is not that great. For the most part, the weather's going to get nicer, and people are going to want to go outside. And the worst thing to do is have everyone leave their houses and be on top of each other in the street. So that is one consideration we have. We're right now in the process of thinking about how to continue to bring city staff back to work and make sure that the things that we're doing, the city services that we provide, are going to continue to expand and improve as we move forward here. For example, we started tree planting. We're building and renovating new parks, we're resurfacing streets, we're building bike lanes, we're doing all the things that the city needs to keep doing that we just can't stop doing. And we need to have our staff in place to do that.
Yeah, of course. So I've been in touch with a lot of, small business owners, a lot of restaurants, for example. So Hoboken, I recently heard, was potentially thinking of using the parking spaces in front of some of the restaurants over there for outdoor seating, right? Protect people. And I also heard that maybe Jersey City might be thinking of expanding outdoor space, but some streets might not allow that. On maybe the smaller streets, maybe Grove Street and downtown, there might be some space outside. But what are your thoughts on that? Is there any plans for that for the local restaurants?
Yeah, we've been discussing it for sure. It doesn't work for every restaurant. We're gonna make it work where we can. There are other things that we're going to have to do as well. So you think about the sidewalk cafes that we have across the city, where some restaurants expand into the sidewalk. Not every restaurant has the ability to do that. Not every restaurant has a ground floor and a sidewalk and even a parking space in front of it that's going to work. And some restaurants, some businesses, that's not really their model. But that's one of the many ideas that we're thinking about, and we're going to have to execute on if we want to make sure that our restaurants have enough support.
Okay, no, that's good. I'm glad that that's something that you guys are looking into. All right, so you kind of touched on federal aid, local aid, and is there no specifics as to how much and when any of this relief is going to come to these small businesses? Any actual idea?
Yeah. There are a couple of phases to it. So there's the CARES Act, which is one of the earliest and fastest sources of funding from the federal government that's being provided to government agencies. And the Hudson County has already received CARES Act funding. And we are working with the county. Every municipality in the county is working with the county administration itself to make sure that we're getting reimbursed and being able to fund the things that we're doing related to coronavirus. So essentially, the way we're approaching it and the way all our municipalities are approaching it is anything that wasn't in the budget, in the city's budget previous to the coronavirus pandemic, that is also related to coronavirus, to managing the pandemic, we're hoping we're going to get reimbursed for or covered through these federal funds. So in Jersey City, we've set up it's actually more than 2 test sites for both the virus test and the antibody test. We're hoping that every penny we've spent and every person that we've sent to work at those sites, all of those expenses are going to be covered. And we're hoping to get some of that money coming in very soon. The county already has their funding, and it's just a question of getting it documented and approved by the county. So once we sort of get the government operations back in order, we are going to be discussing with the county. We've already had these conversations where we're going to figure out what we can and should do consistently across the board to help our small business community, not just in Jersey City, across the entire county.
Okay. So that kind of brings me into the next topic, the COVID testing that we're doing in the city. You mentioned antibody testing and just the general testing to see if you have it. So how available is it? Like, can I just be like, look, I want to know if I had this in the last 2 months and maybe was asymptomatic. How do I go about, getting tested for an antibody test?
Yeah, we're offering both types of tests to all of our residents. The only stipulation right now is you have to be a resident of Jersey City. So right now, the way to schedule an appointment is to call the coronavirus hotline, 201-547-5535. And again, if you don't remember that number or want to read more about it, jcnj.org/coronavirus. That's the website that has all of this information. We will offer you a test if you have symptoms or not, if you think you had symptoms or not, if you're just curious. We'll give you a test at this point. It's just a question of scheduling. Okay. And we're doing this to be proactive with it and to make sure that we're catching every single case. Yeah. And the goal here is whether you had symptoms or not, we want to know exactly who's had it. And the more tests we get, the more we're going to know exactly who's had it. That's really the only way to figure it out. To give you an example here, we were testing all of our first responders in the very beginning, just to make sure, like, for example, a police officer is going to go into someone's house and have the virus and they didn't know about it. we found dozens of police officers and firefighters that had the virus and were totally asymptomatic.
Wow.
And so this was great for us to know, because that could have been a catastrophe for the city if we had
going forward.
First responders interacting with hundreds of people a day, giving everyone the virus. And we got ahead of it. We were proactive, and we made sure that we quarantined these individuals and that they were also receiving the care that they needed. And then and that was it. And it was really no incident after that. So that's what we're hoping to do now with the larger population of Jersey City at this point. And the same for the antibody test. There are a lot of question marks around that as well. We are confident that to some degree we're going to need one or both levels of testing for some population of our residents at some point. So we're just trying to get ahead of it and get aggressive with making sure that we're getting as many tests out there to as many people as we can.
Great. So I got a live question right here, and I think you kind of answered it, but he's saying, somebody's asking, do you need an insurance provider to list it, or is it free? I believe this is all free for the residents, right?
Yeah, it's free. It's free. We're covering all the costs of it. You don't even have to show proof of insurance. The only thing you got to prove is that you live here.
So an ID.
Well, okay, you have to live here, and you could also be a healthcare worker or a first responder that works in Jersey City. Those are the two stipulations. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's great. Now a completely different topic now. The mayor walked back the Board of Education stuff, and he was potentially bringing it in-house, and then now because of the change in the environment, I guess he's not doing that anymore. Could you explain what the thought process was behind this? Because I mean, some people might still think that the Board of Ed might potentially have been compromised. Maybe it was or wasn't. Like, what is the reason? Like, has that all changed? That all of a sudden it's not a concern?
There have been a few things that we've not necessarily changed course on, but just pushed off to another time, I would say. So, for example, the open space tax and the arts tax. Those are two extra taxes that we were levying on properties, a very small amount, fifth of a penny per $1,000. So, the average amount, I think, for each of those was $70 on an average property a year. So small amounts of money, but we were raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the arts, for parks, for that sort of stuff. And we decided this year that we're going to hold off on those things just to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep costs for our residents low, for our property owners as low as we can. The school board was another thing where it's just not the right climate and not the right time to be trying to make changes to things. Anything that we are looking at saying, this is a cost to somebody somewhere, we're trying to delay those things or just hold off on making any changes as long as we can.
So this is a delay or just a cancellation for right now as far as the Board of Ed?
I mean, it was basically the beginning of an entire process. It was a ballot question where the people would decide, and it would trigger all these things. And we once we put it on the ballot, we wouldn't be able to turn back, and it would just it would go. I don't remember the mayor's exact words, but really just the climate is not right for making big changes and restructuring of any level of government, whether it's the school board, whether it's our own agencies, that sort of thing.
All right, cool. So as you know, I'm a realtor. I've been getting calls from a number of people that I've worked with in the past, my friends. These guys are concerned about, for example, their leases expiring, getting evicted. Somebody has reached out to me saying, I'm a tenant. My landlord now wants to sell the place. I don't want to allow showings. I'm scared, right? So, I mean, I have some general idea, like, is the city enforcing these type of things? What can you say about that?
Yeah, so a few things here. We are doing our best to enforce all these rules. There are a lot of new things on the books right now, and a lot of things that we've changed to help keep people safe that we're trying to keep up with. So we do have our quality of life task force that's out every day enforcing a variety of these new rules in addition to the old rules. So, a lot of the quality of life stuff is still in effect that they have to enforce. And now they're also looking into social distancing and the requirement of wearing masks in certain areas and that sort of stuff. So again, for more information on all this stuff, jcnj.org/coronavirus, you'll get the full list of everything that we've done. There's other stuff that's going on at the state level. that is helpful for tenants and for landlords as well. There's a moratorium on evictions. There are some other financing tools that the state is trying to put into place. There's $100 million. It's more than $100 million fund that the state's putting together now for rent assistance. And so there's a lot of moving parts right now. So it's hard. It's really hard at this point, and we understand that people are very nervous and anxious about paying their rent and getting rent from their tenants. We're doing as much as we can right now, and also, I hate to say it, but the gears of government often move very slowly, and it's only been a couple of months, so we're still getting all this stuff in place.
Can people get evicted right now? I mean, I was kind of told by someone that the tenant.
No, eviction. There's a moratorium on evictions at the state level at this point.
Okay, perfect. All right, cool. And I wasn't sure I was going to ask this, but what's going on with the 5G utility poles? What's the issue there? I'm very confused. I'm sorry, but do you know what's going on?
Pass.
I was like, I had this in my notes. I said, do I even want to talk about the 5G utility poles? I guess I'm going to ask.
I can give you some of the backstory. So in cities across the country, the telecommunications companies are installing new infrastructure for 5G cell service. It's the next level after 4G, and it's the latest and greatest.
Okay.
And so I'll try to summarize briefly here, but long story short, the FCC manages the oversight of this infrastructure, and they haven't given local governments much authority and autonomy to have any input on this. They basically have said, this is going to go in. You don't have a choice. You might be able to move the location of a pole based on some local conflicts, like maybe there's a fire hydrant or a driveway or something.
Yeah.
And you have some say on the look of the pole.
Okay.
But for the most part, you can't stop 5G infrastructure from going in. And, we've had some of it start to go in. We've approved a few contracts with some vendors to do it. I think Verizon and I forget the companies that are already starting to install the poles in the city at this point. But we've of course had some questions and some concerns from some residents about just the safety of 5G internet in general. And long story short there, the energy emitted from these things is much lower and much less harmful than anything that you already have out there anyway. The energy coming from your phone is probably more dangerous than these 5G poles, and you're holding your phone much closer to your face and you're using your phone much more.
Yeah.
But the concern, and we understand the concern from people in the city, is that they're now seeing this device and these devices much closer than where they used to see them. So the devices used to be, up 40 feet in the air or underground, and now they are 10 feet above
your face.
Yeah, they're in your face.
Yeah.
So, we get the concern there, and we understand. I think the city council sort of wants to have some more discussions and do a little more thinking and learning around this, but I don't know. It's up to them at this point.
Can it be stopped? Like, can they just be like...
Can't be stopped, but I think, what we've tried to do is we've tried to work with the vendors that are installing this infrastructure to provide more notice and to provide more historically appropriate poles in the neighborhoods where it is needed. So like in historic districts, we're trying to make sure that it's not just like this tower full of these like beeping, blinking lights kind of thing.
Exactly.
But there's really not a lot we can do after that, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, that's pretty much the questions that I had lined up for you. Now, I wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to talk about before I opened it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions, start typing it in now. But Brian, anything that maybe you wanted to discuss? Anything that is a hot topic or that you wanted to bring up?
Not really. I think I just do want to give out a shout out to all the first responders and healthcare workers out there in Jersey City and beyond. They put themselves in harm's way every day, doing their jobs when we're not in a pandemic situation. And now it's even much more crucial that they perform their jobs and they do what they're supposed to do. and they're doing it. And we're seeing just tremendous work, a lot of unsung heroes across Jersey City and across the world at this point that are saving lives. And, I also want to say that Jersey City and a lot of other places have put rules and protocols and policies into place that a lot of people may not be too happy with. But we are very confident that we're going to look back on this time months and years from now and know that we saved lives, that we did everything we could to prevent the pandemic from spreading and to prevent more tragedy. The social distancing and the closures of businesses and keeping people indoors and away from each other, it's proven to do exactly what it's doing. And we, like clockwork, a certain amount of time after we started our social distancing protocols, the number of cases started to decline exponentially. And so we can point to these numbers and say, look, had we not, we would probably still be increasing at a rate that we wouldn't be able to control. And it would have led to overcrowding of our hospitals. It would have led to a death rate far higher than we've seen. And even though we've had a lot of loss here locally, and we've had a lot of loss around the world, we're happy that it could have been much worse.
Even one life is too many. So actually something did come in as far as the question goes. I know that you must have heard about the recent unfortunate murder-suicide, which is bringing up the topic of, domestic violence at home. People are kind of locked in at their house, in their homes, in their apartments, like 500, 600, 700 square feet, 1,000 square feet. And some of them might be stuck in there with an abuser. What is your thoughts on this? I mean, it is scary.
It's terrible, and it's exacerbating any issues that might have already existed inside the home. So it's a really challenging time, and there's even less places to escape for people who need to get out at this point.
So is there any city stuff?
But we do support staff that can help you.
I might have lost you there.
Yeah, coronavirus, the resources on there for this. This is one of the things that we're highlighting, knowing that it's a big issue right now, more so than it has been.
Okay, so there's some plans set up for protecting these domestic violence victims.
Absolutely.
All right. So does anyone else have any questions? Type it in right now, or forever hold your peace, or until the next time Brian Platt agrees to do one of these with me.
Probably never again, let's be honest.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're pretty much done here. I just want to let you know, as I always do, we are going to get out of this. We will thrive again. We're going to be the amazing, beautiful Jersey City that we once were. And Brian, thank you again very much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for this too. This was great. Yeah. Stay safe.
All right, cool. All right, see you guys. Bye.